Welcome to Career Explorations, a series of career-related panel discussions featuring faculty and alumni from Drexel University Kline School of Law. I'm Donna Gerson, Associate Dean in charge of the Career Strategies Office. Tonight's program is all about health law careers. We're going to talk about the wide range of opportunities to practice in the health field, whether in private practice, in-house, in compliance, and in government agencies. Hear from Professor Barry Furrow, Director of the Law School's Health Law Concentration and a nationally recognized expert on health law. Meet our wonderful faculty and staff who are shaping their careers in health law and compliance. So let's get ready to explore. Now I want to introduce you to Mary Kate McDevitt, a third-year law student who is president of Drexel Kline School of Law's Health Law Society. Mary Kate graduated from Drexel University with a Bachelor of Science degree in health science. Here at the law school, she is also involved with our privacy, cybersecurity, and compliance student group. Mary Kate, welcome.
Hi, everyone. First off, thank you to CSO for this great event and to the attorneys and faculty for participating today. The Health Law Society just had our first general body meeting where we discussed our plans for the year, including assuring student access to various health law conferences and facilitating networking opportunities, as well as organizing student participation in health law competitions hosted by different universities around the country. Of course, given the remote forum, we are rethinking the best way to go about this, but overall, we want to help our student members secure health law related positions and expand their interest in the field. If you have any questions or interest in joining, please feel free to reach out at drexelhls@gmail.com. It is now my pleasure to introduce Professor Barry Furrow. Professor Furrow is a professor at Kline and the director of the Health Law program. He is the lead author of the 8th edition of the law school casebook, Health Law, Cases, Materials, and Problems. He has taught and published in the health law and bioethics areas for the past 4 decades and continues to find the issues raised by the healthcare system to be intriguing, puzzling, and always worth thinking about. Professor Furrow?
Thank you, Mary Kate, and welcome to everybody. We want to give you a good exposure to the practice of health law and the nature of the field, which most of us here have come to appreciate and try to become experts in. And I want to introduce my colleagues, Professor Rob Field, who's the director of the Joint JD MPH program at Drexel School of Public Health. And we're joined at the hip. He's a core faculty offering required courses and other courses at the law school. And Professor Paul Flanagan, who is the Master of Healthcare Compliance and runs our healthcare compliance programs, among other compliance programs, and brings a wealth of expertise from industry to the law school. So we have a terrific panel of Drexel alums who are in active practice in a variety of areas of health law. And I think we're going to go right to the panel, and I'm going to pose questions to them, and they're welcome to amplify as they want. We have Anthony Modolinsky, Ruben Noor, and Michael Crabtree here with us today. And I think I'll start with Ruba. Ruba, why don't you give us your title and your employer and just a few details about what you do, and then fill in as you want.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Ruba Noor. I graduated in 2018. Presently, I'm working at Reed Smith, and I'm a second-year associate, and I work with their life sciences health industry practice group. So the type of work I do is basically pharmaceutical litigation. So it's very litigation heavy, but I mean, our day-to-day is basically looking at a ton of medical records because of like a lot of pharmaceutical products that are involved. So yeah, basically that's like a very quick overview. It's very different. My day to day is never the same. I mean, just this past week, we were all just absolutely going crazy because we were filing a bunch of briefs in courts. And even despite COVID, I would say our workload has not really slowed down because, we all depend on court deadlines. So, I mean, my day to day just varies a lot. There will be some days when basically I would not have a lot to do, and there will be others when, we're working from, I don't know, like 7 in the morning until sometimes midnight, and we're like filing briefs or preparing briefs and, getting them finalized and getting them filed into court. We do a lot of review of, I would say, medical records because, like I said, pharmaceutical litigation. So there are a lot of devices, a lot of, I would say, medical products, drugs that are involved. So all of our briefs, they require us to, dig deep into, I would say, medical records. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have two in-house lawyers, Anthony Magdalinsky and Michael Crabtree. Anthony, I think I'll start with you. How does in-house vary, from law firm work? What's it like?
So that in-house work, the way I can best describe it is in-house work, you have one client and everything that could possibly ever happen to that one client, you have to worry about. And you play more of a defense role as opposed to I'll call it an offensive role when you're specifically litigating a case, as it happens to be in most of your what I'll call outside counsel work or law firm work. So on a day-by-day basis as an in-house counsel, you're really working with the high-level executives in a company to figure out, here's what are the pressing issues that are facing the company, and then you basically go from there to analyze how to you effectively defend the company from, say, outside litigation matters, or if a regulatory agency comes knocking at your door and they say, oh, we don't like what you did here, you're in trouble. First line of defense is your in-house counsel to engage with the regulatory body, have discussions with them. Same thing with, outside litigation that comes in. You're really the first point of contact to make sure that, all of the company's rights are reserved, and that from a day-by-day basis, you're making sure that you're setting the company up to be in a position where there aren't as many lawsuits filed against the company. There aren't as many, legal inquiries from regulatory bodies. So I'd say that's probably the biggest difference that I've seen just being in-house counsel and then working with our outside counsel on various different matters. It's more of a defensive role as opposed to an offensive role. I graduated in 2015, and right out of law school, I was in-house counsel for Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield New Jersey. It's the largest health insurer in New Jersey. And actually, as of September of this year, I've recently transitioned over to in-house counsel for an insurance brokerage firm known as Connor Strong and Buckaloo in Camden, New Jersey, mostly supporting the employer benefits practice here at the firm.
Thank you. All right, Michael Crabtree, let's hear about what you do and what the pathway was into what you do.
Well, sure. I'm class of 2018. And what I do is I work for OSF Healthcare in Peoria, Illinois, for a health system with about, I think we're 14, maybe 15 hospitals now. They're constantly acquiring new ones. So that definitely keeps us busy. I'm a compliance officer and interim director over corporate compliance. So, to get to the heart of your question of what do we do every day, not to borrow a cliche, but literally the only thing that's consistent is I get a cup of coffee at 6:30 and then we go from there. So it varies every day. So there's a lot of excitement there. And I want to echo what Anthony said there, the difference between in-house and law firm work. I previously was in a law firm, and it's definitely the case that you're really focused on that one client, as opposed to in the firm work where, for this half hour, you're dealing with one client and you've got a very short turnaround time. You're in a meeting with another client and trying to keep those all in alignment. So with in-house, we definitely have a lot more opportunity to focus strictly on that client. So it's not necessarily better or worse. It's just a unique way of practicing.
Question that has come up with all three of you. what did you study in law school that helped you, if it did, to become lawyers in these particular roles?
Monumental to it was actually being a healthcare concentrator. It is such a specialized area of the law that going into it, if you don't have any background on where to look, what are the common issues that you need to spot, things of that nature, it it would make it very hard if you wanted to jump into such a specialized industry. This is feedback that I even give. When I was at Horizon, I ran the internship program, was the co-op partner for Drexel. As a shameless plug, I will be setting one up here at Connor Strong as well, so everyone stay tuned for that. But it is this knowledge that you obtain throughout the healthcare concentration that really set me above and beyond to be able to come into the roles that I was put into in this industry and make an impact immediately. And some of the other ones include, I did take an insurance law, I took administrative law. A lot of these classes really did help me, all part of this healthcare concentration as added, but all cumulatively made for my experience and being able to issue spot and understand the problems that my internal clients were going to have in order to be able to best advise them how to move forward and how to creatively come up with solutions to the problems.
Generally speaking, I think every course that we took at Drexel definitely helped in some way. But I would agree with Anthony as well. I'm going to echo Anthony a lot. It sounds like, the health law program definitely sets you up for success there because it teaches beyond just the substantive law in health law. It's constantly changing. And I think recently, starting in March with the COVID outbreak, the regulatory environment changed so quickly and there's so much hitting the airwaves that it's really not the substantive skill that's valuable, but that's just part of the picture. It's the courses such as administrative law, the health law research, the core health law courses themselves that really teach you how to think about it and where to look and how to interpret that in the grand scheme of things that I think was most valuable. So definitely the health law courses helped, being a health law concentrator. And I will plug the health law legal research course. That was a really good one as well. But they were all in their own way very valuable.
The health law concentration really helps you think in a certain way. And I mean, although I work in the litigation part of LISHI, which is the Life Sciences Health Industry Practice Group at Reed Smith, there are different parts of it. There's one that does purely regulatory work, one that does fraud and abuse related stuff, and one that does transactional. So there are different departments and they're like all over because Reed Smith has offices all over the US and it is global as well, but they have tons of offices. So they do a lot of regulatory work, I would say, in Washington, D.C. And here in Philadelphia, we are very litigation heavy and we do a lot of transactional. So I have been in situations where people on the transactional side have asked me to help them with something that sort of involves both litigation as well as transactional work. And I feel that if I did not have the health law background, I would have been very confused with, like as in Stark law and, kickback statutes and whatnot. So it really helps. And I mean, even on the litigation sides, I have done work that requires analysis of fraud and abuse related statutes. So what's it called? Like the person who's in charge of our department, she, was basically she encouraged me to be involved in projects that kind of, sort of like as in get into I would say like as in projects that are different than purely litigation, just so if we are ever in a situation where, I don't know, there's a fraud and abuse kind of a matter that is involved, that there is someone in the department who has more knowledge, like both practically as well as like, background, like legal knowledge to help with something like that. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think that if it wasn't for my health law concentration, it would have been definitely very hard for me to, like as in be involved in such a wide variety of projects.
It's good to hear the program has been successful in helping you. So let me ask another question that I think involves something unique to Drexel among American law schools, and that's our co-op education program, which we're very proud of. So can you share with us something about your co-op or clinical experience and how it might have had an effect on your career?
I actually did my co-op at Drexel University in the health sciences department. And obviously without getting into specific details, what really made that experience so worthwhile was that you're actually working on projects, real things that people are, you know, they're not putting you in a corner and saying, hey, work on this and we'll look at it later. It was actual substantive tasks that affected the health system, and they were using your work to, you know, they reviewed it, but they were using your work. It actually meant something. And because you're doing actual work, the feedback you got was that much more valuable. So I don't want to say you started better than any other graduate of other law schools, but almost like you started with quote unquote half a year of experience that other people didn't have of actually practicing law. So for that reason, I agree with you, Professor Furrow. The co-op program is a very valuable asset to the health law program, or even Drexel law as a whole. It was phenomenally valuable.
I absolutely love the co-op program. And like Michael said, you are actually working on actual projects. And I did my co-op at Reed Smith, actually. And I mean, I feel like the summer program is very structured. However, the co-op program is as if you are a part of the team, and I don't know, the attorneys would come to your door, give you a project, and you just have to do it. Like nothing is, you know, going through like an internal system where they basically decide your workload and all of that. Here is where they treat you like a part of the team. They will give you assignments that you have absolutely no clue about. So, you know, you feel like an actual attorney, like you sort of get a very good understanding of basically what the day-to-day would look like if you were to join like I would say like a law firm or an in-house or whatever the position is. So it's very helpful in that regard. And I would say like that is basically how I got my job, because I spent an entire semester at Reed Smith. And after I graduated, because of, you know, the work I had done with the practice group, they probably liked it, I guess. So they offered me a position soon after I graduated. So it was definitely, you know, super helpful. And ever since then, Reed Smith has actually, you know, like been trying to get more students into the co-op program. I know, like, given the present circumstances, it's probably kind of hard to, you know, arrange the whole co-op program. But I mean, I have seen a bunch of Drexel students who have been trying to, you know, like be here, or not particularly, I would say, in my department, but I think like in Fed tax and other practice areas. I've seen a couple of our Drexel students, you know, join the program. So it's great for sure.
There's really 3 points I want to make here. The first one is, you know, I want to echo Ruba's point. So I actually started out I did my co-op at Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, which led me to my job. My boss specifically told me at the time that, you know, it was very important for his decision to actually create a position to hire me right out of law school and go in-house, was because of, you know, my participation through the co-op program. So it's beyond valuable, I think, to really put yourself in that position to immerse yourself from a day-to-day standpoint in doing substantive legal work through the co-op program. Another point I'd like to make with just the value of it is going back to actually being an attorney who, you know, I've hired, you know, been part of the hiring process for attorneys coming out of law school. And one of the most important things that hiring attorneys are looking for is, do you have substantive legal work? Have you experienced what it's like? It's nice to have the theory that school teaches you, but there's many nuances to being an actual attorney that they do want to see, hey, have you had that experience? And by far the best programs I've ever seen actually come from Drexel's co-op programs, because whereas most other students who are in other schools, they may work half time and, you know, in the actual office setting, and then the other half of the time they're in school. And the fact that Drexel offers this full-time co-op program to really go in and immerse yourself 35 to 40 hours a week in in either a firm or in-house counsel setting, government setting, is, in my opinion, just working with students from all the law schools around the area, it's really, really a tremendous asset to be able to have students come in and work like that. And the last thing I would say to that is, even beyond just Drexel students, I have, you know, heard from other hiring attorneys how how impressive it is to see co-op students and to see students really taking the initiative to go forward and put in the time and effort and work outside of just being in the classroom. So it's I think a very, very good program that should be explored by any of you prospective students and the 1L students. It's a great opportunity. You should take full advantage of it.
Thank you. All right, so another topic that I'd like to probe with you is kind of a more personal question. What personal qualities, what skills did you find were particularly important to you in succeeding at your work?
I would say, my day-to-day can be very stressful sometimes. So I feel like you have to be flexible and you have to be patient, because you are working in a very high stress environment, and you have, in a law firm, of course, there's a hierarchy, there are partners and counsel, senior associates and whatnot. So, as in based on where you are in the food chain, a lot of the stress does, you do end up listening to stuff or all that maybe, it's not always pleasant. However, you kind of have to understand that people are under a lot of stress, and especially given, the COVID situation. I would say people at the higher management level or at the partnership level, they are very stressed out because, they have to try to manage the business and whatnot. So I feel like if you are flexible with your schedule and you're prepared to help, people really appreciate that, and they remember you, and that actually helps you with, I would say, promotions and whatnot. As in, of course, you have to produce good quality work as well. That way they trust you, and then they would want you to work on future projects as well. And on top of that, you have to be patient. Those are two things that I feel are, in my experience, I feel that they've been super helpful and super important. And that's, one of the ways I've been able to work with a number of people and on a wide variety of projects. I do mostly do multi-district litigation related work. So, but sometimes, there are smaller projects, but if you basically are the kind of person who's okay or open to reaching out, if you have a lighter workload, that helps you get, smaller projects and whatnot. So because in law firm environment, the billable hours are very important. So you have to make sure that, you're getting enough to keep yourself busy. But, to basically answer your question, I feel like you have to try to be flexible and you have to be patient.
So from a personal characteristic standpoint, I'd say there's a couple of more important ones are that you need to have initiative, you need to be curious, and then you also need, I don't know if it's really a characteristic, but it's more of a soft skill. I know everybody talks about this emotional intelligence, but I say that you have to have initiative, because whether you're in the firm life, whether you're in in-house counsel life, people aren't necessarily going to know that they have an issue internally. And so you have to have the initiative to dig a little bit deeper and then spot an issue and bring that to somebody's attention. Say, well, this actually may be something that you should look into. I can help you with that. And I find that tremendous. There's especially, and Ruben knows this from the law firm perspective, you're not only an attorney, but you're also a professional marketer. You have to market your services, you have to market your skills to have clients come in. And so to take initiative to go forward, market yourself, find those those issues, those latent issues, I'll call them, is I think a very important personality trait you have to be a successful attorney. Number two is curiosity. And I say curiosity because you have to always be questioning why something is the way it is. And even when somebody gives you an answer, to then again question it, because until you really get down to the nitty gritty of something and you've really analyzed and thought through an issue, I don't think you can confidently say or take something to your clients and say, this is my true recommendation. Because if you haven't done all of that curious analysis and poking and prodding and investigating, you're setting yourself up for maybe one of your clients or the opposing counsel or the regulator who's coming in to question you, asking you a question that if you had taken more time to analyze the situation, you would have had an answer to. But if you don't have an answer to that, it's a really sticky situation to try and get yourself out of. And number three, with the emotional intelligence, as attorneys, you are dealing with people, and people don't always act rationally. They may act irrationally. And you have to have, the ability to read the room, read your client, read the other client that you're going to have. Whether you're internal or external counsel, so law firm versus in-house counsel, you deal with a lot of different people. And in order to be successful and to navigate those various areas, you need to have, in my opinion, a strong emotional intelligence to know this is how this client likes certain things done, and then you have to craft it and make it that way. And then this other client likes it done this way, so you have to readjust and move accordingly. So in my opinion, those are three really big things that you need to concentrate on.
As I was listening to Ruba and Anthony talk, one thing that came to me was, to build on both of those, is situational awareness as well. You're often dealing with such complex issues that affect so many different moving parts that you have to be really careful of who you're talking to and when you're talking to them. It could compromise an investigation, it could compromise a productive solution at the end of the day. So it's sometimes hard to keep all those parts in mind and make sure that you're, to build on the emotional intelligence aspect, also doing the emotional intelligence, but also knowing who's in the room, why they're in the room, and whether that's a conversation that needs to happen somewhere else. Sometimes an informal conversation in the hallway is a lot more powerful than a formal letter, things like that. But I think the one that overrides above anything else is the integrity, both in the legal profession and in the compliance realm, because without it, you're not adding any value to the scene. You really have to have that integrity. If you don't have integrity, no one's going to listen to you, and it might be hard to appreciate, sitting until you're there. But as an attorney, as a compliance professional, especially, I've noticed you're in the room with some very powerful decision makers, and somebody with 20 years of experience at the healthcare system, who has some very intimidating title, president of 15 different things. And they look at you and they say, what does compliance say? And you don't want to blow that. So you definitely want to have that integrity, not only of your person, but also of when you know what you're saying, say it with conviction. And when you don't know the answer, to definitely let that be known, because they'll let you in, but it only takes one opportunity to kind of be to diminish that relationship. So I would say the situational awareness and that integrity are very vital components as well.
So the last question I've really got for you three, and thank you, you're being very insightful. I appreciate it. So when you started out looking for jobs, what kind of resources did you use? How did you go about building a network? And it also applies now to practice. How do you expand your billables? But how did you get started? What were the tools you used? You talked about Drexel, the co-op, and so on. But beyond that, how else did you develop?
Well, Donna knows this, that I think ever since I started, probably the CSO was my second, place that I was at, not just because of the coffee. We had a lot of free coffee back then, but it was also because I always had like a ton of questions. And it was also because I know I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but I was in the the global law program. So I was new to the US. So I did not have a lot of knowledge about the legal, system in the US. Yeah, so I would say I was very curious. I wanted to learn about the legal market. I wanted to know more about the legal system of the US. So yeah, I was at Donna's office and Liz's office and Amy's and all the time, I would say, because I was trying to find out about networking events. I know that I went to a ton of them during the first year, and it's not always easy because you're already under so much stress because of classes and your grades and all of that stuff. So it's not easy, but when you put in a little bit of effort, as far as you were building up a network is concerned, it goes a long way, because Philadelphia is a small market. Of course, it depends where you want to go at the end of the day, but if the end goal is to stay here, if you have like a network of people, trust me, if you go to an event, you might run into someone you saw like, I don't know, at an event like a year or so ago, because of, you know, the small nature of the Philadelphia legal market. It's very intimate. So I did go to a lot of networking events. I would, you know, like basically, you know, like as in talk to a bunch of people, get their business cards, reach out to them. And that's how I tried to stay in touch with as many people as possible. Other than that, I know like there are a bunch of job fairs that are organized or, you know, like as in are available throughout the year. So I took advantage of that. There's also then my God, why am I blanking out the OCIs? How can I forget that? I think I'm just scarred by that process. I want to blank it out, but that's a stressful one. But that's a great way for, you know, people to get summer job opportunities. And I think the summer jobs do open up a lot of doors, even if, for example, you don't land a job with the law firm that you worked with during the summer, you still are making those connections. You are still forming that network, and it helps and it goes a long way. So it's like, you know, every little thing that you do, it makes a big difference. So I would say like take advantage of, you know, the resources that are available at the CSO. They will keep you guys informed about, you know, like as in whatever's happening in Philadelphia, and try to do as much as you can without driving yourself crazy, of course, because I totally get how, you know, insane law school can be. Yeah, but it all goes a long way for sure.
Sure. Sorry, I had a flashback there to OCI. Fun times. I would echo Ruba there. Definitely the CSO. It's, even if you think you're good at networking, that's great. Take it for what it is. That's a great skill you always have. But the networking within the legal world is a unique skill. And the CSO is excellent at helping you navigate through those waters and see some success there. So definitely the CSO is the first place. I see Dean Gerson there posted that American Health Lawyers Association is a great one. I agree. Also HCCA if you're interested in compliance. You know, if you're definitely interested in working for a health system or it's sometimes tough to do that, but one place that I found was really valuable for networking was American College of Healthcare Executives. They'll take student members for very cheap. It's like most associations, you know, there's a student rate, and it was just a great opportunity to meet some local leaders. And, you know, even though it doesn't result in a job per se, or, you know, you go for an interview and you get a no is not a closed door. It's just simply somebody who at that time might not have something available to you, but if you put a good impression in their mind, it's amazing how that grows and builds, and at the time you need it most, that'll come to fruition of that connection. But those are it's definitely start with the CSO. They'll help you from making mistakes in the networking, as I was about to make many, and Dean Gerson would take my hand and go, no, let's do it this way. And it was very successful. So
I agree with, you know, both Ruba and Michael. I'll touch on a few others. So first and foremost, you know, feel free to tap into your professors. Your professors know people. They know people who are looking to hire attorneys. And they can, you know, if you do good work in school and you show initiative, I'm sure your professors will be more than happy to reach out, make connections, and at least give you a platform to have a conversation. Maybe your professors can't necessarily say, this is a job, I guarantee you're going to have it, but it's just about the opportunity. Your professors can give you that opportunity. Another place that I would recommend you go to are upperclassmen. There are upperclassmen who you can befriend, and they go through OCI. They then go into law firms, or they go into work in other organizations. And if you have built a relationship of trust, integrity, to Michael's point, where they would be willing to stick their neck out on the line and make a recommendation to their firm or to the organization that they're working for, that's worth its weight in gold. Just as an example, the reason I am here at Connor Strong now is actually because one of the my fellow classmen who moved to Chicago from this area had recommended me on the way out. And that's tremendous, especially if the people are trusted within their organization to give a recommendation like that. So don't skip out on the other students, especially the older students who may be able to help you in that circumstance. And then the last one, which is just the nature of the beast, is cold calling. You're going to have to cold call people. I can't tell you how many partners at law firms, senior associates at law firms, associates, in-house counsel at places that I would send either an email or a phone call to and just ask for some type of lunch or coffee or something to just pick their brain. Even if they can't offer you a job, you can have a conversation with them. And if you can make yourself memorable to them, that's worth its weight in gold, because they will be able to say, you know what, hey, I remember having this conversation with somebody. One of my friends at another law firm, another partner at a law firm, is looking for an entry-level associate. I'm going to recommend this person. And the more that you can do that, I think the better you position yourself in the future, because otherwise you're just going to be sending your resume into a place that gets hundreds, maybe thousands of resumes, depending on the size of the firm or the organization. And the easiest way to get from even the bottom, even the middle of that pile to the top of the pile, is to know the person the hiring manager, who will then go into their assistant who's looking at the resumes and say, pick this name out of the resume pile and give it to me. And you do that by making connections, going and talking to people. Granted, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I was probably rejected, never even got a response email from, I'd say 11 out of the 10 emails that you would send. It's just, you have to get used to the fact that you will be rejected, you will be ignored, but all it takes is one. That's all it takes, is just one reference, one opportunity. And as long as you capitalize on that, you will find success.
You were all 1L students once upon a time. Remember that wonderful experience? We tried to make it wonderful, but it's so much work. So if you could go back in time and you could tell your younger self, give your younger self some advice, what would you tell your younger self when you were considering law school or as a new 1L?
I think the best bit of advice that I could give to my 1L self is that it's not about how hard you work, it's about how smart you work. And the reason I say that is because you could try and get through this endeavor that you're going to go through by yourself. And it works for people. It does. But there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. You have an incredible amount of resources in your professors, CSO's office, the older students. If you're lucky enough to have a family member who, or just an acquaintance of the family who's been through it, utilize all of them, because they've been through this experience before, and their experience is not going to be yours, but they are there to help guide you through that. And I really, really recommend that everyone put their ego and pride aside and really just accept the help, because it will make a world of difference.
Well stated, Anthony. I think the other thing would be is to take a breath and just realize what you're doing. I think a lot of times, getting into law school is a great honor and truly an accomplishment. And we go straight from working so hard on the LSAT and getting into law school, they go straight into law school grades and 1L curves and all these other things. And if you just take a moment to stop and realize how much success and how great it is of what you already accomplished, I think it kind of puts everything in perspective. And to take a bit of a broader view of the experience you're having, because you'll look back fondly on your 1L year. There'll be plenty of nightmares about it, but I wish I would have enjoyed it more when I was there. And if I would have just stopped for a minute and realized the great thing that I'm doing, we're going to law school, there's great colleagues there, there's great professors, you're learning great knowledge. I think it makes it much more enjoyable, and I would argue also makes you much more successful.
Yeah, I think I agree with Michael. If I were to give myself an advice, that would be to just, like as in calm down, take a breath, and, to tell myself that, I need to believe in myself. Like, don't doubt yourself. If you worked hard to, get something and to, like have a career, things will work out. There might be delays, It might not happen the way you want it to happen, and it might not happen exactly when you want it to happen, but it will happen. So you have to trust the process, and you have to trust yourself. Because, like all the hard work, everything that you've put into your law school, your career, like your plans to start a career, it will work out. So try to take a breath, enjoy, because that is important. You want to have a good time as well. You don't want to just, like as in sit in the library for hours and hours and hours and not, have any time for yourself or any time to spend with your family. I know that when I was in the first year of law school, there would be times when I wouldn't talk to my mom, sisters, my dad for months. I'm not even kidding. Yes, they live in different countries. That is true, but I would not be able to talk to them, and they would, like get very worried. But that's not good. That's not healthy. So you need to take some time out for yourself and believe in yourself, and things will work out for sure.
Okay, thank you, panelists.
That is so beautiful. So I have a couple of questions from our participants, our guests. One is about location, and this is kind of a jump ball question. What role does location play in health law? And is it worthwhile to look at particular markets?
If you don't mind, I'll take the first stab at it. I think that the pandemic has certainly changed the dynamic and made it more accessible, but I do think that location is important, especially if you are in the private practice setting and you need to figure out how to drum up business. It's just going to be easier for you if you are in an area that is a hotbed for healthcare. Southeast Florida, the Miami area, Fort Lauderdale. There's lots of healthcare systems down there. There's just a big presence of healthcare. Here in the Philadelphia region, you have, I don't know, like what, 4 or 5 major hospitals, a bunch of systems. It's big here. So I'm not saying that there aren't opportunities elsewhere, say Montana, South Dakota, Nevada, Wyoming. There's, Michael is living proof that there are opportunities everywhere across the country. But I do think you set yourself up in a better position if you put yourself in an area where there are just going to be plentiful options.
I agree 100%. But that's not to say that you can't forge that path. I think the good thing is that you need to just kind of figure out what you want to do and where you want to be, and realize that if you keep at it, you work with CSO, you do your networking, look at the local bar associations, or even like, ACHA or Healthcare Compliance Association. There's a vast network out there, and it's amazing that just a little bit of time invested in that. If you want to end up in the middle of Montana, I don't even know if there's hospitals in the middle of Montana. I'm sure there are, but if you want to go there and you spend a little bit of time networking with people and letting them know that that's what you're interested in, eventually you can probably find a future anywhere, at least within, speaking from the compliance point of view.
Ruba, we have a question for you about, hold on, let me just grab this here, that says, how did you set yourself out differently that you were able to get the Reed Smith co-op? But let me also I want to just also clarify this question, because I think it's the jobs from the co-op. And before I do that, I would like to say that while co-op is an excellent academic experience, it is not created to be a job pipeline, but sometimes it just works out that way. And I always tell law students, you can't game the system. You just never know. Every year, between 1 and 4 students will get their full-time jobs through co-op, either directly or indirectly, but that's not the purpose of co-op. So Ruba, how did you distinguish yourself?
So I will say that, Reed Smith, I think when I was applying for the co-op, it was not exactly on our official co-op register, but I had basically networked with a bunch of people at Reed Smith. So I knew some people through OCIs and whatnot, and I reached out to them. And I sort of asked them that, hey, I am interested in health law related work. I know you guys have the life sciences practice group. So, as in, is there an availability? Can I come and work for the practice group? And like it was literally as simple as that. And they talked to the department head, and we had like a very informal type of interview. She asked me to come in, and she was like, yep, you can start. Like, she actually wanted me to start the summer, but I was already working during the summer. So I was like, no, I probably won't be able to do that. But, I can start in the fall. And that's when I did start, my co-op officially. So the networking, I would say, is what helped me sort of find the spot within the practice group that I was looking for, because it kind of, in a way, like, sort of helped me guarantee that I will get a spot in this specialized program, because that's what I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to work with that specific practice group. The second thing was, like I mentioned earlier, you kind of have to, you have to be flexible if you want to learn something, and you want to basically make sure that the co-op is actually beneficial for you. You kind of have to be willing to go a little above and beyond. So I know, like, the co-op is 35 to 40 hours. However, there were days that, I'd stayed there for much longer. Like, I was over my limit, just because there were some projects that required a lot of, I would say, a lot of time. And I was always trying to help with projects that, I mean, they were bigger, they required more time, but I did do that. And I feel that that kind of helped them sort of make up their mind about whether they would want to offer me a position or not. But like Donna mentioned, a co-op is no way a guarantee that you will get a job. And I did not walk into that co-op with that mindset either. I was, I was like, okay, if this happens, that would be perfect. I mean, I love the people I'm working with. That's one thing the co-op helps you with too, like kind of get an understanding of, your potential colleagues, or, like, as in the work environment. Can you handle the stress or not? Can you handle the workload or not? It's a great way to get a good understanding of that. But I did not walk in with the mindset that I will get a job as soon as I'm done with a co-op, or, as soon as I graduate, they're going to offer me a position. And I mean, I did not find out about the job until literally right before their summer associates were starting. Basically, like, they had been offered the position, so they were going to start in September. So a week before they started is when I found out that, hey, we have a spot. Are you willing to take that spot? And by then I actually had not accepted a job at that time. I had just taken my bar exam, and I was working part-time as well. However, like, it just happened. And it was a great thing that happened, because I loved the people that, I was working with, and I really wanted to, like, continue working with them. So I was just overjoyed that it basically happened. But don't go into a co-op with the mindset that you are going to get a job, because then you will be disappointed. And, like, yeah, basically go there to learn, because I think it's a wonderful learning experience.
Thank you. One of the things that's exciting about working in co-op for academic credit is that a law firm can't bill your work out to clients. So no one is looking at you and saying, I could bring you to this deposition, but I'm going to have to bill for it. So I'm going to have you stay back. A co-op student from Drexel Kline School of Law is able to go to depositions, to go to a variety of different things, that because you're not being billed out. And it gives you a very rich overview of what's going on at a law firm. Sometimes you get to see things that associates don't get to see because of the pressure of billable hours. Thank you for coming, everyone, and thank you from Drexel University Kline School of Law. Have a good night.